Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Mastering Dungeons, your favorite tabletop role-playing game podcast. I'm Shawn Rowan here with the dragon-wielding Teos Abadia. Today, that looks like a mounted rider on a dragon.
It does. One of the very, very cool things that you can get with the Dragonlance WizKid minis. And I'll show off more when we do our main segment, which is going to be all into the Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen. Oh, my goodness.
Good times. Good times. We're going to continue our best of series and look at what is amazing about that adventure and the content that comes with it. Yeah. And speaking of adventures and content, Teos, you are going to be at Gamehole Con, I hear.
Yeah, I am. I'm very excited about that. The VIGs and special guests got to do early registration, which Gamehole does an interesting thing where each person that is in the early batch can only sign up for 2 special events. There are a ton of special events. And the special events always, I think, or all events cannot sell out in that initial wave.
Right.
So they do get kind of first pick, but they're still struggling because they can only do slots and whatever. And so I'm excited about stuff that I've got. Like I'm playing in a Mike Merle's game where he's doing some sort of play test of something. So that'll be cool. And I'm going to play Exodus, the sci-fi RPG.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
With Connor Self, who is an awesome DM and worked on the project. So super excited. And I posted on my blog at alphastream.org. You can find all the events that I'm running. I'm running 2 Crack the Sun events, which I know, Shawn, there are way cooler people at the con. So I know it isn't because of me, but you can see how many people have your things in wish lists.
Right.
Only Chris Perkins had more wish list items. And I know why this is, because you can't get Draw Steel at any conventions, right? And so people who want to get a taste of it and just see, but how does it play? Or somebody run it for me. The only way they can do that is at an event like this, or I think there were 4 people running games at Gen Con. You know, it's so hard, right? So we'll see. I'm going to try to do something for our Patreon folks where I can run an extra session in one of the evenings because it's just so, it's such high demand.
Yeah. Well, I was speaking of MCDM and Crack the Sun. I will not be at Gamehole Con this year for reasons. And you are still going to do a live Mastering Dungeons recording with the one and only James Introcaso. And I saw that and I was like, oh man, I'm so mad I won't be there to see it. And then I realized, well, if I was there to see it, then I would be doing it and it wouldn't be happening. So, I think it's a win overall. I think it's a win for Gamehole Con that they get to see.
If we could replace me, then I think it would be a really popular event.
This is true. Yeah, we can get Chris Perkins to take your place.
Can you imagine?
And it would
I would go see that.
Yeah, Daggerheart, MCDM, Crows, which I think is going to be kickstarting by the time the show comes out. Maybe I think that'll be in Kickstarter. So lots of cool stuff. If you're going to Gamehole Con. If you've already got your games, congratulations. If you are still waiting to register, good luck getting what you want. And say hi to Teos on my behalf when you get there. But we still have to deal with our wonderful listeners who deal with that. That sounds terrible. Like, oh, we have to deal with them. We have the joy of dealing with our wonderful listeners. And they send us questions. Sometimes they send us questions via email, which is at masteringdnd@gmail.com. Sometimes they ask us via our Patreon Discord or leave us a comment or question on YouTube, on social media like Mastodon and Bluesky, all these places where you could talk to us. We're going to answer a few questions here today, starting with Bugbear Breath via Bluesky. Wow, that's a lot of
BBs?
Alliteration. Yeah, consonants. But Bugbear Breath asks, is WotC moving away from community playtesting in favor of, quote, big announcement for many of their releases? And what's the point of surprise announcements? What does the product suffer in favor of marketing? Now, I can't speak officially about Wizards of the Coast and their playtesting ideals, but I think UAs will continue to come out. We've seen them. We will continue to see them. They've actually started to put up videos where they discuss what they've learned from the different UAs. So, I don't think that's going to change. there are various levels of testing that a person or a company can do. So I will speak to Ghostfire. So at Ghostfire, we would do internal playtesting. Mm-hmm. We would do what many people might call a friends and family playtest, where you're sending it to people probably under NDA, who you know, who you trust, and you get their sort of feedback before it goes public. And then, of course, you have open playtesting, which will sometimes be like if you back to Kickstarter, you get to get a preview of the rules, and you can do some playtesting and have a mechanism to give feedback. So that's the playtesting side of things. Does that track with what you know and have dealt with?
Yeah, I mean, I know there is a playtesting group. You can look in the covers of books and see people's names, including mine. So there's some public knowledge of the fact that happened back in the day, but that still does happen from time to time. Not always, not every release. And they may do it in some batches and so on, or just playtest a part of an adventure. But I don't think they're moving away from community playtesting. I think the point of big announcements is a couple of things. And one was, and I believe they said this was feedback from the advisory council, of which I'm a member, that said, you kind of need to tell people what's coming. If you remember a little while ago, it was really quiet and nobody knew what D&D was up to. And now we see the roadmap. We're like, oh, they were up to a lot, right? Like it felt like they were doing nothing. And all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, these whole seasons and everything. And so there is a move to this sort of big announcement where at Gen Con, they're going to give us this, what's coming down there. And they said there would be surprises. The point of that is to not have everything spent too early, right? Like marketing can overwhelm itself, right? You can mention 3 products and now you lost excitement over 2 of them because one of them was your favorite or the one that resonated. So by saving a surprise for later, they can kind of reignite that, right? And pull focus at the right moment for that product. So I think that's why you have surprises. You want to keep a few things there. Also, deals with partners may require that you jointly talk about it in certain situations. So keeping things until the end, like even Star Wars, they didn't tell anybody about it until at that event, right? And so that created a little extra surprise, which may be compensated for the leak around Warcraft, right? Maybe even because of that, they released it or announced it. I have no idea, but being able to sort of choose when you release and talk about something is very helpful, but you also need a roadmap so that people can sort of plan and so on. So I think they're trying to do both things.
Yeah, I worked in digital marketing for many, many years, more years than I wanted to. So what I've learned is don't underestimate the power of marketing and secrets and marketing and surprises, especially if it's paired with a sort of a sales funnel or a sales aspect to it.
Yeah.
You will get more sales if you announce a surprise and then do pre-ordering than if you announce something and then just have the ordering later.
Yeah.
Because there is an aspect of some parts of your audience that are like, I'm excited. It's overcome my rational brain. I know that I don't know, but part of me knows that if I wait, I probably won't get this. I won't order it. So let me order it now while it's at the peak of my interest.
Yep.
But yeah, and so you can get into sales psychology, you can get into marketing, you can get into all that stuff. So if you have a lot of products, the best thing you can do is a scaled release of different types, right? Mm-hmm. Do a surprise here, do a long-term marketing plan here. For some people, getting to preview content will whet their appetite. They feel invested in it, so they're more likely to buy it. Where some people, the shine will wear off once they see something, and then they won't buy it, right? So there's all of these things to take into account as you put together a marketing, sales, and design plan.
Yeah. The other thing I'd say is sometimes for us fans, we see what looks like a failure, which might be a success. And an example I would give is Magic the Gathering, where, The Hobbit has had issues like the unbelievable lines at Gen Con to get these promo packs that now have this unbelievable street value because they're so rare. And like even people who normally get them who are influencers can't get them because they're all so rare and coveted. But that creates people talking about it, right? And then what happens is you hear, well, there wasn't enough supply. Like yet again, Wizards has failed to get enough product into hands. Guess what? That's called selling out. you know, and so, yes, of course, you want to meet the demand, but it's so much better than having too much product, right? And so it's sort of the kind of problem that comes from success, if that makes sense. I'm not saying there isn't something there to be fixed, but it's a nice problem to have versus the many other problems you could have. And so sometimes your marketing is almost causing that. And you want to not be too far down the road where you don't cause it at all. And there's just stuff sitting on the shelves, right? Having it all be that much in demand is incredible.
We'll take one more question here. We're going to hear from Andrew Gromlich via email. I don't know how licensed IP works for RPGs. Does one company making an RPG for a large IP mean other companies can't make an RPG for it? More specifically, does D&D making a Star Wars book mean that we won't see any other companies making licensed Star Wars RPGs for X years? If IP has been dormant or unused for nearly a decade, it doesn't cause me much stress. But I've recently gotten into Modiphius' Star Trek, and for now it's still releasing books. Do publishers like Modiphius need to start worrying about Paramount getting a call from Hasbro? And do I need to worry about continued content support for active games when the IP holders have a much more lucrative option on the table? All right. So my standard answer here, everything depends.
Yeah.
It depends exactly on what the contract says. And it's going to be different between one IP holder and licensee and another. It could be a one-page contract. It could be a 1,000-page contract that covers all these contingencies. And so in terms of what might change, market conditions will still apply for IPs like they would for widgets or shoes or anything else that you want to talk about economic-wise. So if an IP is in the hearts and minds of more people, then it's going to command a higher price and better terms for the IP holder. If it's small and niche, then that will generally come with a lower price for the licensee and better terms for them.
Yeah.
That it's as simple as that. So can there be more than one RPG for a particular IP? Depends on the contract.
Yeah.
If the contract says you get a license to work on it, but it's not exclusive, then they could sell that to other people. If yours says it's exclusive, then it's exclusive unless there is a clause that says, you can only make 3 books and it can only do this. And then we could give this
hardback books, or it's only board games, or it's and that's how you see like any number of companies that are making Star Wars stuff, right? There are multiple board games there, but it's a skirmish game and this is a blah, 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 right? Because they have a license to make that thing. But they aren't the only one making that thing, right? Pez gets a license for the Boba Fett Pez dispenser. That doesn't mean someone else isn't making a toy or candy or, right? And so it just depends on that wording, which is a strategic choice, right? On both sides. So for example, as a role-playing game company, do you want to give up a bigger royalty to have it being exclusive? And I think if you looked at the history of Star Wars RPGs, you'd probably say, I don't know that I do, right? Well, now 5e comes along. And what's going to happen there, interesting to this whole idea with Edge having a Star Wars RPG license, is Edge hasn't made a book in like 6 to 7 years or something like that.
Right.
And so, maybe this is in some ways Disney being smart and saying, hey, we'd like you to use that license we gave you. So, maybe think about it because it's not exclusive. You're not doing anything with it. You're not giving us any revenue because you're not making new books. And hey, here's Wizards of the Coast with a one-time deal, but maybe we'll extend it if you don't do something. Yeah. There are a lot of, who knows, right? Who knows? Or Disney may not even be thinking much. I mean, of course, their lawyers will know what licenses they have and don't, but they may not have a giant plan there, or they may have one. It's hard to say. Either way, it's pretty clear that they gave Wizards, it was non-exclusive, and Wizards has the ability to at least make one book. Can they make other things? who knows, right? We'll see. Edge is sort of suggesting not, but it depends on that wording. Yeah.
It's all in whatever it says in the license. So does Modifius need to worry about Hasbro calling Paramount? Probably. But again, what are the terms of the license? What would benefit Paramount the most? But also, what would benefit Modifius the most, right? Would it, if sales numbers are low compared to when they first had the license, is it still worth making books under the terms of the license, right? Would it actually be good for Wizards of the Coast to make a book that would draw attention to the IP? Then people who are fans of the IP would say, oh, I bought this book from Wizards, but I can also buy these other books I didn't even know were there, right? So it's not necessarily it's a negative. You have to look at the situation and the terms to figure out what would actually be best. Sound good?
Love it.
All right, so let's get into our news and commentary then. We are starting with the August D&D Beyond drops. Thanks to Gen Con and then thanks to a Wizards of the Coast summer holiday, we were delayed in our reception of drops, but now we have them. What was included? Well, we'll start with the small stuff. 3 new monsters, right? These are called Sovereign Oozes. There are 3 flavors. One is a CR4 monster called the Vassal. One is a CR9 called the Sovereign Ooze Lord. And the CR17 is the Sovereign Ooze Monarch. And these oozes, rather than splitting when they're attacked, they merge together to become stronger.
Yeah.
The flavor behind them is that they are made because of arcane residue left over from experiments or alchemical products that are discarded. So all of this magic is pooling together, and maybe there's a spark from a demon lord like Jubilex or some other agent of chaos who makes these creatures sentient. Yeah, and off they go.
I like these a lot. They're fun. The Sovereign Vassal CR4 lobs a blinding glob of force. When you damage it, it can, as a reaction, take half damage, and each creature within 5 feet takes 10 damage. That's kind of neat mechanic there. Very oozy, very splashy. Then the CR9 Ooze Lord has this arcane glob as well, but it can shape shift to appear like a small or medium humanoid or beast. And if it has 0 hit point, if it sees a creature that has 0 hit points, it can use its transformation bonus action. That target dies, and interestingly, a minute later becomes the CR4 Vassal. And I had to wonder, Shawn, and you probably can't even answer this, but how this is balanced, because a minute means that's another encounter. It might be that the characters even can move away far enough, but probably it's like a second encounter. So I was curious how the damage is calculated, because of course I'm plugging these into my spreadsheet. And if I do 3 full turns of damage, that would up this damage too. So I was very curious how that balance is achieved and what sort of the wizard folks think about that.
I won't really talk too much about the design, except to say that the CR and experience were balanced so that if you're fighting 2, it takes a short rest for them to join to become the next higher thing. So it's not going to happen in combat. And
well, here I was thinking less about the transformation or the joining, which is cool too, where they can merge, but also that the idea that you could have a dead creature. Could be anyone. It's probably not a PC because they have to not come back to life. But it takes a minute later and they will rise as a CR4. And I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yes. It is a thing that happens.
It's cool.
And as you said, it takes a minute. And the what I see as a balancing factor is during that minute, if you kill the Ooze Lord, or if you bring the character back to life, then the transformation doesn't take place.
Okay, I didn't realize that if the Ooze Lord died. I think I didn't read that part. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That you're not going to have, you're going to have an opportunity to rectify that situation. Yep.
Cool. Yeah. I thought those monsters were all very cool, very flavorful. Shawn, what else do we get?
We get 5 new maps if you're into the maps VTT. We get a neighborhood set along a city wall. We get a sewer dungeon entrance, a sewer dungeon inner chamber, and a sewer dungeon boss chamber and exit, as well as a final map that combines those final 3 into a full sewer adventure, if you will, via the map, along with 13 new stickers that belong in sewers. So, you get the sewer drains and levers and different things like that. If you'd like, we can talk about the common magic items that they've also added, including an alarm pylon, which is a large post that allows you to set a specific trigger if someone casts a specific type of spell. So if a creature takes damage, that will happen if a creature takes damage or if an object takes damage. A silencing satchel, which inflicts a silencing hex on an enemy, sealing their mouth shut. A sync ring, which while wearing it, whenever you write something, a copy of the writing appears in a specified blank book. So it's a Xerox machine. Unraveling cloak, a cloak that allows you to unravel its fabric to be used as thread that you could then, say, follow through a labyrinth. And last but not least, a wand of misdirection, which is a wand that allows you to cast mislead up to 4 times a day.
That's useful. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought that was neat for a common item. Wow.
Yeah. We also have a new feat, which you can talk about if you so choose.
The Fey Tormentor is a general feat for characters level 4+, requiring the Fey Pact feat. So it adds to that Fey Pact concept. You get to do an ability score increase for int, wisdom, or charisma. You have Fairy Time Warp, which as a bonus action lets you choose up to 3 creatures you can see within 60 feet of yourself. Each one makes a wisdom saving throw DC. If they fail, their speed is reduced and they take a penalty to AC of -2 until the end of your next turn. You can do that on once per long rest. And then Hag's Hex, you always have the Hex spell prepared. You can cast it once without a spell slot. After that, with spell slots per long rest. And when you reach character level 5, you also have the Bestow Curse spell prepared and cast it in the same way as Hex, which is kind of neat. I like that it sort of increases when you reach level 5.
If you like the backdrops that you can have to your characters, there are 4 new sewer or vermin inspired backdrops. And to the delight of many, we also got errata from the previous drops. So we're not going to go into the specifics of each, but we can mention them quickly. The feat Fey Pact, the Infernal Pact, and the Shifting Combatant have all been updated, as have the spells Astral Flood, Tortoiseshell, and Void Star. A previous magic item, Salubrious Armor, was updated. And personally, for me, this was good. The Angel of Slaughter and the Angel of Vengeance. Instead of the Disguise Self spell, they now have Shape Change instead.
Yeah, one person on our Discord noted the high number of errata. 9 of about 40 items, or about 22% of these kinds of items. Which, it can happen. But one of the things they told us in Drops was, hey, this is the same quality as what's in our books. And well, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And of course, I'm talking to you, Shawn, and I know you do great work. I know this is hard, and I'm sure that my items would need errata too. But it's that kind of thing that if you want to hit high standards, that is tough, right? It's really tough. And so I'm sure the team is looking at this, because obviously 9 items needing errata is not the best.
I have a lot to say that I can't on that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But it was the overall feedback that I saw about this was, thank you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for listening to us, right? In whatever Discords or on the Wizard site, on D&D Beyond, we gave our feedback and people listened. And so it kicked off an interesting discussion then about audiences and right, what audience serves, what product serves what audience.
Yeah.
And there is an audience out there that wants things like this. They want errata updated when it's applicable, which is right away. And then there's the other audience that wants to buy their book with the 10,000 items, the 10,000 rules elements, and they don't necessarily want errata because then they have to go somewhere to get it. They have to take the time to put it into their book, and they just want to play the game that they got when they bought their 300-page book, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting look at this sort of very diverse audience that D&D is trying to serve.
Yeah, and in this case, like, I can almost say, well, I don't need to bug the team about the fact that I'd like an errata page because this isn't actually a printed book. But wait a minute, somebody could have printed it. And now, where will they go to find this, right? They have to look at the changelog currently. And so having an actual like errata place, I still think is really important. Because otherwise, you don't know where to go. And if you lose sight of this, where do I find this again? And, it does create that sort of confusion. I certainly know there are people out there who don't like errata. They feel like I got my book. That's the reality. That's fine. You can also do that, and make your own changes.
Unless your players are like, look, this is stronger now. Yeah. So errata, but it's weaker now. I'm not going to share that with you, right? So
true.
Yeah, there are many audiences. I will say again. So all that's out there, and you can check it out on D&D Beyond.
Yeah. Also on D&D Beyond, Shawn, is Frontiers of Eberron Quickstone. We reviewed this on Mastering Dungeons 209 when it came out on the DM's Guild. It's that cool Western frontier setting, part of Eberron with Keith Baker. Did you want to go over any of what's being added? It is the same content as what was in the product before.
Yeah, it's now available on D&D Beyond as opposed to being on the DM's Guild. Things like a 254-page book with 6 subclasses, 6 species, 5 backgrounds, 15 feats to support the species introduced, 3 new spells, 35 magic items, 25 new monsters, including Archfey, another Dalkir, and the dreadful overlord Tal Karash. All there, available on D&D Beyond if you are interested, including an adventure path taking players from levels 1 to 5.
Yeah, I liked it a lot when we looked at this. It's a really neat product.
Yep. And D&D Beyond had even more because there was an article discussing Szass Tam as we prepare for Arcana Unleashed and the adventure Deadfall. We get this article by Riley Silverman on the history of Szass Tam. Do you want to talk through?
Yeah. Tam would hire adventurers back when he was a living person, like the rest of us, and these adventurers would hire magic items for him. He would gather more and more power, kill the adventurers if they became too powerful or started realizing how bad he was. Then he joins the Red Wizards and kills the Zulkir of Necromancy, takes over that position, leads efforts to claim other nations for Thay, is wounded, and from those wounds decides to become a lich. And then uses, as we saw in the movie, the Beckoning Death to kill many Thayans, turn them into undead troops under his command. He kills a bunch of Zulkirs to gain power and orchestrates their downfall and so on, and becomes the head of the Red Wizards. During the Spell Plague, this is a part I had not read. Maybe it's in an old book or maybe it's new, I don't know. But Tam struck a bargain with Bane, Lord of Tyranny, to grant him the power he'd need to complete his conquest, in exchange for Tam's soul after a period of 1,000 years. So we'll see how he gets out of that contract.
You know how he gets out of that contract. He becomes a god. If he becomes a god, then he is as powerful as Bane. So now he's going to, at all costs, try to become a god. And that's where we see his plans in Neverwinter and Chult.
Yeah, which are really cool. I thought you were going to say that he breaks his contract and then makes a Star Wars role-playing game.
I believe that there was a clause in there that said he was not the only lich who could make a Star Wars or Star Trek role-playing game. Yeah.
But he's got a new plan, right, Shawn? What's that?
That is called it's a demonic ritual called the Malefice Mortem. And that would help him raise an unstoppable army of demonic undead and put the whole nation of Fae within his reach, which is probably just another step toward him trying to get out of that deal he made with Bane. And that's where our Arcana Unleashed comes in, because it will present the players with another opportunity to stop Szass Tam's plans.
Love it. Love it. Looking forward to it.
And speaking of plans that have gone awry, Pathfinder and Starfinder titles have been added to DriveThru RPG. And it's not just like the 2E version of Pathfinder or old or new Starfinder. This is pretty much the entire back catalog of 1E, or a lot of it. So not only can you now buy a lot of Paizo, Pathfinder, Starfinder content and other content from Paizo on DriveThru RPG, they're going to have a Paizo Connect feature, which will allow the users of DriveThru RPG and the Paizo store to sync their libraries across both sites. So if you already own something on the Paizo store, you would know not to buy it again on DriveThru RPG.
That's really interesting. I mean, I like that part of it. This is a surprising development to me, because Paizo, when it first started out, it built up this store, and that store was amazing for them, right? No retailers, no online cut, just get that revenue in. And they would do all of these subscriptions for their books, for their adventure paths, you name it. And people would just buy all of that, right? Their miniatures. And clearly that has decreased over the years, and also the problems of diamond distribution. They're now in a really tough place, right? They've laid off a lot of people. They've closed their offices, all of that. So, it feels like this is part of that strategy get back, which is good. We've all been in these kinds of situations personally. You probably have, and you have to make these kinds of tough decisions. So hopefully it works. This is part of helping them kind of come back to where they want to be.
Mm-hmm. Where a lot of people want to be is getting awards, and Critical Role has just gotten an award, and not just any award. It is an Emmy award. They shared the news. Critical Role shared the news that the Mighty Nine, their Amazon show, won an Emmy award for outstanding individual achievement in animation for the work done by Howard Chen, who's the background design creator for that show. Did you ever imagine?
No. And now, we need a role-playing game to get an Oscar, a Tony, a Grammy. So let's all get out there and work on that. Let's get one more of these.
Little EGOT action for role-playing game content.
That's incredible.
Well, not getting an award, but getting a union were the workers at Rowan, Rook, and Deckard, which is a UK game producer who've won, they've had many awards. They've done great work. And the workers joined a union of game designers in the UK. And Rowan, Rook, and Deckard voluntarily recognized the union.
Yeah, it didn't take a vote or anything like that. It was interesting because compared to Wizards, it was very similar requests, right? The use of AI, conditions of staff and freelancers, pay, a framework by which all these things can be discussed. And so it was very similar to what the Wizards of the Coast Magic the Gathering arena team requested. And that was not voluntarily recognized. It was the opposite, hire the big companies to try to stop it. Nonetheless, that union went through. So here we see a tabletop in the UK, which is the first. So that's a big deal. And we're seeing more of this, right? So who knows if this is a real wave, right? We saw Paizo before, and so we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, different country, different laws, different size, right? Different situation, but still, it's another step toward that unionization, protection of workers, giving them not necessarily a stronger voice individually, but a stronger voice as a whole in the process. We have the Springfield School of Worldbuilding coming to us from the Magnolia blog, which provided an excellent article on how names impact world building. Teos, you're the one that read this, so tell us all about it.
It's a joy to read. I highly recommend it to everybody. In addition to its Rick Springfield joke by putting him behind a DM screen, it breaks down location names into Springfields named after other people, a combination of those or other, and shows how just so many names in both the real world and fantasy are named after one of these, and most of them are Springfields. Which I'll get to in a second. Some of them are named after people, like Vancouver, named for George Vancouver, who charted the area. Paris, after the Parisi people who lived there. Springfields are compound names, spring and field, that describe the place. It's also a super common name in the US. But the blog talks about a lot of interesting aspects about the naming of these. For example, they let you know something about the place, right? But also that over time you forget this. You just accept it. You don't, someone says I live in Springfield and you don't imagine a spring and a field necessarily, right? Because you just get used to these. Right. And they mention Harford, which is where a hart, a deer, forded the river. It's a river crossing for animals, right? We don't even think about that when we think about Connecticut. And so I thought that was super fascinating.
Yeah, I grew up in the part of New York that was settled by the Dutch. And there's a lot of kill, like the Catskill Mountains. There's Peekskill, there's Fishkill.
School kill,
and I was always like, but there's a lot of killing going on around here. Why did they talk about killing all the time? And this was, me as a kid, but shows how curious I was. And what I learned was that kill is the Dutch word for like a small creek or a narrow river. So it's all about this. It's the same thing, right? It's the kill, the small river near the peak. It's the cat, the fish where the fish go through is Fishkill. And so that's along those lines. And you can learn these words and put them together, as this article talks about, to make some really interesting place names.
Yeah. And the blog argues we should have more of these, right? That a lot of typical fantasy names don't have as many water deeps, and Neverwinters as they probably should, because they're trying to drum up this fantasy appeal. And that is cool, but you should actually do that more to like cast wonder and questions on the side of the players. And most of them should probably be Springfields, so that you are actually informing them about, Bogwater or, Neversun or whatever you want to call it, right? That informs the players and kind of is very evocative, or people because you really want to draw that out, or strange words because there's going to be something they'll learn about it, right? And I thought that was a really neat way to look at it. So very nice blog from Magnolia Keep.
Yep. As you play Peril in Pine Brook, keep that in mind.
Nicely done.
We also get a blog about starting RPGs and starting communities from Renee Devereaux, who blogs on nextcity.org. And they shared their experience across 3 years of building a community in the Twin Cities by hosting D&D and other role-playing games in bars. Renee discusses how they saw two problems. It's hard to make friends as an adult, and it's hard to find people who will teach you D&D. And why not combine those two things into one?
Love it.
And this is why I love D&D Encounters so much, because it is along those lines. It's not quite in a bar setting, but it's a similar. That's true. It's a similar idea. And so they focused on clear conduct guidelines, providing everything needed so people don't have to worry about making a character or having dice, and making it easy to show up and play whenever the person wanted. About half the community is LGBTQ+, women or genderqueer, which is something that a safe space will often help people come out. I don't mean that, that way, but right, move from their safe space into a newer safe space.
Yeah, I thought that was fascinating. The idea that, about half the community, and yet this was not a thing they tried to do. They just put in safe space, parameters, right? Clear conduct guidelines and things like that. That's really cool. And the Deanna Jones Award went to a Twin Cities gaming store, and this is a Twin Cities program. And there's a lot of overlap with what we saw in the Diana Jones Award about that Twin Cities gaming store. They gave out dice and whistles in this program. They cooked meals for affected families. They held a Know Your Rights workshop and more, because the whole of this giant area was dealing with these issue around immigration and how to help the people impacted. And what I liked about this article is Renee's just talking about these accomplishments that were never planned for, but happened because of that solid purpose, right? That foundation being laid down of bringing people together, establishing how you do it, making it easy. And the program's called Dragons, Dungeons, and Drinks, and it has thousands of players and hundreds of DMs. I mean, it's just incredible, right?
Yeah, that is what we love to see. We also love to see DM David. I was just thinking about DM David's blog the other day and how I hadn't read anything from him recently, and now we do, because David discusses his impressions of all of the D&D announcements at Gen Con. David has excellent commentary as he discusses the Icons program and how it seems to be promising to bring D&D quote unquote back for a certain demographic, even when some of those settings that they're bringing back have already had multiple iterations in 5e.
Yeah. And I like that David kind of says, like, hey, this is my demographic. Like, I'm the person being served here. And that's great because I love these settings. But also, like, isn't that kind of weird? Because aren't we this tiny wedge? And so why is that happening? And also, when you say back, what do you mean by back when all these settings have been there? Yeah. And I like, similarly with Universes Beyond, he talks about bringing new players to D&D rather than simply trying to coax existing players to spend more. And there's something to that.
Yeah. And he also talked about something that I know we discussed, which is comparing the days of when Jim Butler, say at TSR, said that they have too many product lines chasing too many customers, to a new reality where products seem to be deliberately made for some fans, but not for others, due to perhaps having a large customer base, so that you can get away with doing a product just for a certain audience, or at least a certain perceived audience.
I'm really curious how that will work, right? Whether we'll see, like, say, the yearly Ravenloft, goes far as amazing, right? So we assume it'll be good quality. And if every year they're cranking out a Ravenloft product, will that continue to see interest? Or will it decline? Or will it split the audience? Will we suddenly see Ravenloft fans versus Greyhawk? Or I don't know. It's really interesting. And so a great read as always from DM David. I agree with you. There used to be like weekly posts from DM David, and not that I wish the work upon him, because I certainly can't keep up a weekly blog. But it was like getting my cup of coffee, right? Just sitting back and reading that, because he's just so good at it.
As you read this one from DM David, go back and read all of his thoughts on Initiative, which are the posts before this. So in depth, so detailed, so insightful. You should check out the game design brain there, as you also look at the sort of marketing brain. And in our creator corner this week, we have some game development resources. Teos, what is this about?
This is a shout out to Levi Cornelson, who on itch.io has a number of useful and thought-provoking resources. A big one, literally big, is the Praxic Compendium, which pulls together various other creations he's done. It's a collection of elements from and for tabletop role-playing games. Things like cycles of play, right? Gameplay loops. Ways, and it can be for exploration, for role-playing, for you name it. He covers all kinds of things. Ways authority can be divided, dice rolling conventions and outputs, possible bonus types, ways that game prep might be done, and much more. And it's absolutely free. And it really is amazing for design because, we know there are all these kinds of role-playing games, like say something like initiative systems, and we can think of a few, but having one place that has pulled a whole bunch of them together, including ones you probably haven't seen, is amazing when you're trying to design. And also on this same itch.io page by Levi is other works like cycles and loops, one-page marketing plan, instructional design. Really incredible.
Yeah. It's so funny you say that, because I have a folder on my desktop that is just like game design basics.
Yep.
And I was like, this sounds familiar. And I just opened it, and I do have a couple of different things in there from Levi. So yeah, check it out. Link in our show notes.
The deck of rules bears mention, and especially because it even has an online generator, and you can click shuffle and it'll be like, okay, here's how you're determining skill checks, and now pick one of these two for your core roll generator, and click one for the way that you character generate. It's really interesting. It's so fascinating. The way that you can think about a game kind of shuffled up for you is really, and you can actually print out physical cards too. It's really great.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. It's link in our show notes, but you can search Levi Cornelson at itch.io.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, that's our news and commentary this week. Hang in there because we are going to talk about the best of Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen.